How World War II affected the Indianapolis 500 and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So the first key character in this story is former track owner Eddie Rickenbacker. Captain Eddie Rickenbacker was an American flying pilot during World War I. He was the Medal of Honor recipient. His 26 aeronautical victories was the most of any during World War II, and he was one of the most decorated flying aces during his time. Before Captain Eddie was one of the best flying, he was one of the best on the bricks. He was ultra quick at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, competing in the 500 from years 1912 to 1916 at the Indy 500, with the best finish of 10th. After World War I, his love of the sport had tempted him to buy the track from the founding fathers of the Speedway in 1927. From there, Captain Eddie got the Indianapolis Motor Speedway through the Great Depression. Eddie was a man of many ventures, though, in life. Outside of owning the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, he was a high up at Eastern Airlines, and he would have a even bigger role come World War II. After the 1941 Indianapolis 500, it was the last race before World War II, and it was the second time in history that the 500 had co-champions. Maury Rose won his first of three Indianapolis 500s that day, and along with Floyd Davis. They were co-champions because one driver started the race and the other driver finished the 500-mile race. In December of 1941, the U.S. would change forever, though, as on December 7th, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. Later that day, President Roosevelt addressed the Congress in the joint session, giving the famous Day of Infamy speech, officially declaring war on Japan. But Captain Eddie had other plans. On December 29th, 1941, 3 weeks before the U.S. had suddenly found itself in war, World War I flying ace Eddie Rickenbacker was called back into action. Eddie Rickenbacker canceled the 1942 Indy 500 because of his commitment to the war, stating there would be no further activities until the hostilities had been resolved. During World War I, the founders of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway used the grounds of the IMS as a refueling and depot center, flying between Dayton, Ohio, and Rattall, Illinois, and served experimental aircrafts were tested there. Similar one was proposed by Eddie during World War II, but it was doomed too small because of the huge planes and the lot bigger engines they were using at the time. Captain Eddie's role again in World War II was much bigger than it was in World War One. Between 1942 and 1944, the Speedway sees its first action. On July 31st, 1942, Rickenbacker orders the facility padlocked during the duration of the government. Basically they held a whole bunch of fuel, rubber, and other supplies for the war and other things that they needed during the Speedway in July of 42. Late 1943 to 1944, all forms of motorsports used at the Speedway were used at the Speedway to test different products on the cars, so that if they ever could return, they would. In 1944, around that time, there was talks to up the national speed limit to 35 miles an hour. So Firestone had to get a good synthetic tire. In late 1944, they were doing speeds around 30 miles an hour. November 29th, 1944, one of the most famous days in the history of the Speedway. Three-time Indy 500 winner Wilbur Shaw takes a Firestone car to test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But from the test, he realized something just wasn't right about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the facility that he had loved. That's when three-time champ Wilbur Shaw, another key characteristic in this, or another key character in the story, sorry, became deeply concerned with the state of IMS. Shaw came to the Speedway's gate. And when he came to the gate, he opened it, and when he opened the gate, it crumbled into a whole bunch of pieces under him. The entire gate fell apart. Shaw had realized that the facility hadn't once been used or taken care of since race day in 1941. That was May 30th, 1941, mind you. Because the U.S. had declined the IMS infield during the World War Two, it basically got overgrown and became a jungle. Weeds had made their way so high through the bricks on the front stretch that even locals, there's a few tales of locals being able to break into the gates of the speedway and were able to hunt rabbits on the front stretch. That's how high the grass was on the front stretch at the speedway. And the walls at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at that time were about, I'd say, about probably 4 or 5 feet off the ground. So just imagine that. Old wooden grandstands were rotting and on the verge of collapsing. That's when Shaw tries to meet with Rickenbacker. Directly following the test in November of 44, Shaw tried to fly to New York to meet with Eddie, but because of his ventures at the time, Rickenbacker had already had plans to, with the American Legion, to sell the grounds of the Speedway to become a housing development. That's when Shaw sent out about approximately 30 handwritten letters to different businesses that might be interested in saving the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with him. But they all tried to make it about themselves and tried to make it all a company, fundraising type thing, much to the displease of Wilbur Shaw. But he wasn't done yet. From there, he was told by his friend Homer Cochran to be referred to this guy, this Terre Haute, Indiana businessman named Tony Hallman. Here's probably the most important character in this story, Antoine Tony Hallman Jr., nicknamed the savior of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. His grandparents were German immigrants who founded the brand Clabber the baking powder, which is still extremely successful now. You've probably seen it around. Tony followed in putting in the necessary money to save the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. His dad was an avid racing fan, so was he, and his family owned the Speedway until February of 2020. Following his untimely death in 1977, the Speedway recognizes his bold antics, which saved the Speedway, and basically, he is the guy that got the Speedway into becoming what it is now and making the Indy 500 a global, celebration. From October to November of 1945, it was believed that Shaw and Hallman met up to talk about the future of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The story goes that Shaw and Hallman drove up to Terre Haute to meet in Hallman's office alongside some family friends. Shaw was extremely pleased that Hallman was also a fan of motorsports. He had attended the 1914 Indianapolis 500 and wanted to see the 500 become a huge sporting event, just like the Kentucky Derby was. Hallman took a trip to the Speedway, and he actually was impressed, not impressed, but he was pleased that the damage was definitely was able to overcome that. So that was not a factor at all in him buying the track. Meeting was involved with all principals on 11:30 on Wednesday, November 14th, 1945, at the Indianapolis Athletics Club. Rickenbacker and Holman signed the contract to make Tony Holman the new owner of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The sale. Rickenbacker had envisioned reopening the track himself, but Holman's attorneys, made him think twice about it. Antoine Holman Jr. purchased the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on November 14th, 1945, at the price of $750,000, or approximately $13 million in today's money. After the sale, Holman was named the Speedway owner, with three-time Indy 500 champ Wilbur Shaw being appointed president and general manager of the track. From there, Shaw and Holman would lead the Speedway into generations to come. The outcome. After buying the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Hallman hired crews to renovate the track in the areas that were overtaken by nature. These groups worked at such fast pace that they were able to get the track in ready time for the 1946 Indianapolis 500 that was won by George Robeson. Hallman bought the Speedway. He brought the Speedway into the next generation, and his family owned the track until 2019, making the millions of people visiting the Speedway every year for leaving with an unforgettable time at the Speedway. Again, the 500 is a global event now with a whole bunch of international drivers and a whole bunch of international fans coming to the Speedway every year. From 1946 on, the Speedway became a global event, having drivers from all over the world compete in one of the greatest races in the world, becoming what Hallman envisioned. The Speedway had housed many different people from vastly different backgrounds. That's what makes the Indianapolis 500 so special. If it wasn't for Shaw and Holman, their vision, the property would be a housing development right now, remembered by only the true historians. Now it is one of the greatest race courses in the world and is known as one of the big three around the world. From there, society in the U.S. fell in love with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and because of these two is envisioned, again, that's why the Speedway has become such a global icon, and that's why they really did save it, from becoming housing development. And without them, it would not be what it is now. Okay, my works cited here. We have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway article on discoverindiana.org. We have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway savior story. Holman teamed up to rescue IMS. That one is from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway's official website in their archives. We have Samantha Celeste's Butler University honor as a grad thesis. She had a lot of good points in there. And we also have the Wikipedia article from the 1942 Indianapolis 500, from the 1941 Indianapolis 500. Thank you guys for watching.